Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to give it just one more minute here for the last couple people to get their calendar invites and connect in. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Automate 12 webinar hosted by ProVal Technologies. I'm Keegan Carter, an Automate engineer here at ProVal, and I'll be helping to moderate today's webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for giving us a piece of their Friday and extend an extra special thanks to our existing clients that are on the call. We'll be viewing our live Automate 12 environment and walking you through the changes in the newest release. Anyone from technicians to administrators to help desk users will find this beneficial. Today we're going to be covering over some of the newly designed control center aspects, as well as doing a refresh of the new computer management window, and introducing you to the new Ignite Manager and the Patch Manager that was introduced in 11. Please submit any questions during the presentation. I'll be queuing them up and we'll do a Q&A session at the end. Today's webinar is going to be run by Chase and Paul, both of them are engineers here at ProVal. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Paul take the floor.
Hello, I'm Paul Engstrom, a systems engineer here at ProVal Tech. Today I'll be showing you the control center and later on the patch manager.
And this is Chase Murphy. I'm one of the other system engineers here at ProVal, and I'm going to be going over some of the computer management window stuff with you, as well as the Ignite Manager. I'll hand it over to you, Paul, to get started with the live demo.
All right. As many of you are aware, Automate 12 introduces a fully redesigned control center. The design now matches the computer management window, which was redesigned with the release of Automate 11. So with this new design, the control center now has a vertical menu bar over here on the left. And we'll go through each of these sections. The first one is favorites, and this is new. It consists of items marked as favorite within the control center. You can favorite both individual items and sections. Basically, you can favorite anything except browse, which consists of your clients and your actual computers. So for example, we could open automation and we could favorite the patch manager. We could also go into tools and favorite a plugin. And then when we go to the favorites tab, they'll be there for quick and easy access. And this is configurable on a per user basis. So it's different for each user that logs into the control center. Next in the menu bar here, we have browse. So browse contains all of your clients and agents. It also lists all of the groups within your environment. And you can click on a client or a location in the navigation tree here on the left-hand side, and it will show all of the computers and agents within that client or location here on the right-hand side. Same as before, double-clicking on any of these machines will open the computer management window, which we'll go through this in a little bit. And then you can also double-click a client or a location to open that older style window. This window is yet to be updated. One of the new things though now is as you highlight a machine, we have quick action buttons up top. So you can quickly and easily start a control session, a remote control session. We can run scripts against the machine. We can run commands. You can view the monitors or create a new one, and you can run reports. Also across the top here for either the client or the location, we also have access to network devices, retired assets, and contacts. On the computer screen here, we do have our columns across the top. You can easily click these and move them around to reorganize it. And you can also right-click and open the Show Column Chooser, which will allow us to show columns that are hidden. And if you want one, it's easy enough as to just dragging it up and letting go, and then you'll have that column available. If you don't want one, you can just drag any of them down into the column chooser window and they'll disappear. And again, this is configurable on a per user basis. Now the last change here is the search functionality. It has changed a little bit. So you have a search box above your navigation tree. And in here, we can only search for things within this navigation tree. So you can only search for a client name or a location, for example. If you want to search for computers, you have a search box here, and you can search for anything within your the current window that you're in. So if I do a search now, it'll search for this test client main location only. If I want to do all machines, I would click clients, and then it would list all the machines in my environment. And one of the new things is now is we can actually search any of these fields that we see. So for example, if I want to see any machines that match online, I could just type online, and we'll see only the machines in the environment that are currently reporting to be online. The last search box is up here at the top, on the top right, and it's search agent ID. And in this one, you can search any ID for your agents. That's the only thing it can search for, and it's there in any window within the control center. And we also have the new button here on the top left. And what this will do is we can quickly and easily create a client, a contact, a group, a location, or a script. And this button is available in any view in the control center as well. The next tab we have access to is automation. And automation consists of your data views, monitors, schedules, scripts, searches, templates, and it also gives you access to the patch manager. So for example, we could expand scripts here and choose view scripts. This will open a new window, or a new designed window that shows all of the scripts within your environment. And within these, you can click on any of your folders and it will show all the scripts here. Like here is one of our scripts, for example, an agent reinstall. If you double click it, it will open the older script design window that we're all familiar with. Next, we have tools. And tools contains all of the enabled plugins in your Automate server. It's fairly straightforward. It just, instead of them showing across the top like they used to, they're now just here in a list. And clicking any of these will open that respective plugin. Next, we have the service desk. And this contains all the generated alerts and tickets within Automate. And it also gives you access to your heads-up displays. So if you click tickets, for example, it will just open the older style window where you can just see all of the tickets that have been generated by Automate that should be syncing to your PSA. Then we have help, which gives you access to the getting started wizard as well as links to the online manual for Automate, and you can also view the server status. And these just take you to that similar window as before. Not everything has been updated with the new design. Lastly, we have system. And system gives you access to the dashboard, your plugin manager, users and contacts, and it's also where you can access the solution center now, as well as your plugin manager. We can open configuration and go to the dashboard. This is kind of where all your settings and configurations are for Automate. Now, there is one new thing, is your user profile up here on the top right. It will show your picture if you have it added. But here, we have a little drop down and we do have some preferences that we can edit. This is also where you'd go to run a reload system cache now to refresh your control center without quitting and logging back in. But under preferences, we have some options. You can enable show object IDs, which will show actually that agent ID next to each of your agents. It'll also put these numbers that we're seeing next to the groups, as well as give the scripts IDs as well. So you'll have IDs for everything within the system shown. We can also switch our themes between light and dark here. You can also launch Command Console on open, and then you do have an option for the computer management screen is with the new design, if you open more than one, they'll actually just kind of use tabs within one window like a Chrome browser would. Or you can choose to open them in their own window like they used to with the older design. And again, these are configurable on a per user basis. So at this point, I'll hand it off to Chase here, and he'll take us through the computer management window.
Well, Paul, thanks for giving us a little intro to the whole computer management or the whole navigation tree there. Give me just a second. I'll go get a system open here. I got to get a couple of them to show you what's going on. All right. So jumping in right into this, we found and heard that a lot of our users were still using the older style management window. And if you were, shame on you. You shouldn't have been using it. You should have been using the fancy new one. So just as a heads up, in 12, there is no shift and click anymore. You are going to be stuck on the new computer management window. So if you haven't been using it, this is definitely a time to perk up. If you have been using it, make sure you take a look and maybe there's something you missed or didn't know about that I can show you. So thanks for joining my section here. So getting right into it, the first big change is you'll see there's a whole bunch of tiles through the middle here. You can scroll right through them by either dragging left and right or using your mouse scroll. All these items here should have little compressed informational items about the system itself. A lot of things that you'll notice missing on the traditional computer management screen, the old style, there used to be a bunch of information on the right-hand side of it. That's now mostly shown under the Show Details button in the upper left up here. That's so you can see, last login, last startup, last contact, heartbeat, uptime, temporary files, all that type of stuff is all listed right inside of here now. Also, you can assign a contact right to a machine right inside of the Automate window now, which can be super useful for when you're doing ticketing and tray ticketing and things like that. So when you get the tickets through to your PSA, it should also include the contact that sent that in, ideally. Another great thing about all these tiles is you can directly drill into them. So if you want to go, for an example, see what the hard drive space looks like on the system, you can just click on the Storage tab here, and that's going to take you straight over to that menu right inside of the window and give you all the hard drive, all the information about that system. If it has any of the smart status stuff in here, it's all going to be listed. And conveniently, they also move all of those tiles that were accessible. They put them right down here for easy navigation. So if you need to switch between that and processes or services, that type of stuff, you can jump right between those windows by clicking on these. You also have the option to right-click on any of these options up here and go straight to those menus. So the little gear icon here, the automation wheel, that's going to take you to things that run through Automate, commands, scripts, monitors, that type of stuff. If you right-click on the little screen here, that's going to give you information about the system itself. So you can go look at system or check the logs, check hardware, check services, that type of stuff. And the little plug over here is going to be your plugins. So you could jump over to whatever plugins you have installed in your environment and running. Another little note is all those tiles that you saw in the beginning, they are all customizable and movable. So if you don't want something where it is, you can move it around. It's all customizable for however you want to look at it, and it is user account based. So it'll only impact your account when you're switching these things around. And if you feel like you're a little burdened by too many tiles, you can use the little icon here that says Workspace Settings. You click on that, and that's going to bring up a little dialog box where you can configure and adjust how many tiles you see. You can also set up several different type of workspaces. So if one day you're working on checking hard drive stuff and one day you're working on agent stuff, you can have two different dashboards that you can view as necessary. We do recommend trying to keep as few tiles as necessary. The fewer the tiles, the faster the window loads. So if you don't need to look at the little quick view of the software, turn it off. And that way you won't have to deal with looking at it anymore, and it won't have to worry about loading that every time you open up a window.
Yeah, that is a great thing to know, guys. It will greatly reduce the load time for this screen if you remove the tiles that you don't need.
And then a little, as Paul was mentioning earlier, you have those two options in the new user settings menu where you can tell the computer management screen to open in the same window or in separate windows. We have it set to open in the same window, so that would look like this. So if you need to switch between machines, you just hit this little drop down here where the green monitor is, and that's how you switch right between the two systems. You also have an option for this little button right here to pop it out, and that would get you two separate windows. So this would be the style if you had the option selected for separate windows or open in a separate window every time. Couple other cool things. Let's say you ran a command or a script against a machine. All of that information will come right out of this little bell in the upper right-hand side here. So if I submit, let's do one real quick, a command for checking my inventory and do a update config, it's going to pop out right there and show you that command status. And as it's updated, it's going to fly that window back out so you know what the status is. So you don't actually have to sit there at the at the scripting or command screen, hit the refresh button until you see it go through. Now it's just going to pop up and let you know when it's completed or if it failed or any of that. So there you go. Just popped up the success message saying it went through no problem. So you know that everything was updated. A couple other cool enhancements is now there's the begin button. There was always a begin button, but now the begin button's a bit fancier. You do have the traditional search method that you could do. You click and go find the folder, do all that stuff. But it's much easier just to use the search. So if you know what you're looking for, like if you wanted to update the configs, all you got to do is type update configs, and that's going to take you right to that command, so you don't have to go and run through all those menus and go and find everything you were looking for. So there's definitely a huge advantage there. So we recommend you use that as much as possible. It can also be super helpful if you just don't know exactly what the name of a script was or a command was. You can start typing in what it might be like, and it might help you find the one that you're looking for. And then last but not least, there's a whole bunch of options on the bottom here. I'm gonna go over those with you really quick. First off, the screen connect button or ConnectWise control is listed right down here. It's a little green fox or bear or whatever you want to call it. If you right click on that, you'll get a couple of options that'll be super helpful for ConnectWise control. You can disable it on a system if necessary. There's a reinstall, the redeploy, and the check connection. Most useful one over here is probably the redeploy. If you find a machine that is not available for ConnectWise control, try the redeploy first. That'll usually get it up and running for you. Otherwise, it's a traditional left click and it'll pop open the system right away for you. Right next to that is the other redirectors. So if you click on that, it's going to give you all the different options that you could use to get into that system so you can see what's going on, including remote desktop, lab VNC, tight VNC, what other sort of other plugins you have, shell, all that stuff, you can get in right through there. There's the tools button here. These give you access to things like the File Explorer and the Registry Editor, which are great functionalities. So you can open up either one of those and work in the background of a user's system without interrupting them. So we highly recommend using these if you need to go grab a file off a system, like a log file, something like that, or just tweak a small thing in the registry for someone really quick. You can do that all without interrupting the user from doing their work, which is super useful. Keep in mind though, anything you do in there is set. If you do it, it's going to happen. So if you delete something or move something or make a registry change and blue screen to death it, that's on you. So make sure you're paying attention when you're adjusting items in there. There's also access to the command prompt screen, which will give you an elevated admin command prompt, so you can run any sort of command that you could type into a normal command prompt on a machine with admin access, which can be super useful for gathering information or making small changes. You can also open a telnet session and the show history. Show history is really a great button that I think is underutilized in Automate. You can come in through here and you can kind of look at a history of the whole machine. When you're looking at the command screen, the script history on a machine, you don't always get the full history. It only shows you a couple days worth. This should give you the whole history of the whole machine, whatever's stored in the database for however long you keep it. It should all be right in here. So you can see all the information you might want to know about a system, software, event logs, the drives, if there's any scripting information that's happened on here. That's going to be super helpful to navigate around without having to wait for the computer management screen to load up, because this all loads data view style, so it goes a heck of a lot faster. So we definitely recommend you use this. Next on the list is there's a screenshot button. So you can take screenshots, you can request and browse the screenshots that you've taken of the system. You can click right here for a chat or create a ticket right on the system. And finally, if there's any additional plugins you have, you can click that little button and it'll fire off things. We don't have many in our test environment, but like for example, this will take you right into control the machine. In the bottom right here, you'll see all of like the status buttons and just general flags about the machine. So here's if the agent's online, you have the heartbeat right here. You can put the machine into maintenance mode or see if the machine's in maintenance mode right from clicking this little cone icon here. You can tell if the machine's a master machine, if there has a local account, if it's a network probe machine, or if it's in fast talk. Typically a machine checks in every 5 minutes, but if you put a machine into fast talk, that's going to increase that to every 5 seconds. We highly recommend turning that on if you're going to be using things like the registry editor or the file explorer. Having that on is going to make the machine check in more often and make the refresh happen a lot faster. So we highly recommend you turn that on when you're using it. It'll also give you the percentages of processor and RAM when as the machine checked in. So that's what it was about 30 seconds ago on this machine. So that's pretty much everything there is to know about the new computer management window. Again, definitely get familiar with it if you're currently using the older one in 11, because it's going away, so you may as well make the change now before you upgrade and just start getting used to it. The difference between 11 and 12 is really negligible, so there's definitely a big advantage to starting to use it right away. So there's that, and then I'm also going to be demoing out the new Ignite Manager, which has been updated for 12. If you've been using this plugin already, it's not going to be a huge difference for you between 11 and 12. But we've also noticed a lot of clients that don't use the Ignite Manager, and we're starting to recommend it as they finally have it updated to a point where it works pretty well. Essentially what the Ignite Manager is going to do is allow you to manage all of your remote monitors for your role-based systems. So, if you ever get, performance alerts, things like that, the majority of the time they're probably coming from something like this, from the remote monitors attached to all of the systems based on the roles. So when you go into this originally, you'll hit the dashboard here. I have it set for the global view, but you can break it down by client. But essentially, this is going to show you, based on each management pack, what the setup is, or what the settings are and status is of all of the monitors that are applied to all the systems. So for example, right now in our test environment, you can see our core services, 100% success. There's no failed or warning monitors right now. So that way you don't have to worry about looking at that. But if you go over to the network port here, you'll see there's 33 failed monitors. So that's something that you probably want to go and look at so that you know what's going on with those network ports. All of these management packs here, you'll see all the icons along the top. So we'll just jump into the core services so you can see that. So core services are things kind of related to Windows domain, domain controllers, DNS, DHCP servers, Hyper-V file servers, all that type of stuff is going to be listed right inside of here. And what you can do is you can jump in and say, okay, I want to see what's going on with all my machines that are file servers. And you can see, these machines here will show the status of all the monitors applied to them individually. So you can go and check a system really quick and easily. So for all those, remote access ones that are always popping up because there's RDP sessions open or available, you can click on those and you can go right through the monitors really quickly and easily and see what's going on with each system and see what's failed. Just as a heads up, this little red icon here, that's actually just showing that the agent's offline right now. So it's not being monitored, just as a heads up. And there's several different packs. So like I said, core services is kind of more Windows related items. There's the databases, which is going to cover SQL servers, things like that. There's the messaging pack. That's going to cover any sort of your Exchange servers, or if there's, God forbid, any older BlackBerry servers still hanging around out there, you'd monitor those from here. You'd also get network port and web and proxy settings, so you can check those from here. There's also a couple plugins that integrate with the Ignite Manager, like the StorageCraft plugin, as well as the Cloud Console. So we don't have Cloud Console in our system, but you would also manage that from the Ignite Manager. And then over up in the right corner here, there's the configuration setup. So this is where you go to actually configure all of the monitors and all of the alerting for everything related to this. So you can see all those high-level core services, database, messaging, network port, etc. is all right here. If you click on those, it'll give you the option to select what you want to monitor. So let's say you don't have any OS X firewalls or VPNs, just turn them off. That way you won't have to worry about those trying to apply monitors or any of that type of stuff. Or let's say you're not really worried about monitoring print servers for some reason, just turn it off and you won't have any monitors apply out to the file server or to the print servers, excuse me. You can drill into all of those types as well. And that's going to actually show you the monitors that will get applied and what they're going to apply to. So you can see here, all of these monitors right through the middle, they're going to apply to anything that's registered as a domain controller. And then there's a couple of specific monitors that are only going to apply to domain controllers for 2008 plus. And then these ones are only going to do the domain controllers that have the NTDS role. So it's kind of easy to check through there and see where everything's going to get applied to.
And these roles are automatically detected onto your agents during the onboarding process.
Yeah, which is super nice. As long as they're onboarded properly, they should be read properly as well. So some of the options in here, you'll see when I click on a monitor, it'll update this advanced settings on the right. That's where you'd actually change the condition and the timing on the monitor. So if you want it checking every 60 seconds and you want to see what the alert style is, so if it alerts once or alerts on the 10th time, etc., you'd set that all from here. There's also configuration options in the top bar here. So for the monitoring, that gives you the option to enable, disable, change the alert template, change the ticket category or the report category of the monitor you're selected on. You can also do it for multiple monitors by clicking and doing a control or shift click. So you can select multiple at a time for disabling or enabling or changing it, whatever you want to do. You can also just turn on and off data collection. So if you want to say, we want to know about the performance of log record stalls per second on domain controllers, you could click on that and say, okay, I want to enable the data collection, but you don't necessarily want a ticket about it. You can disable the actual ticketing by editing the alert template, but leave the data on so you can go to that remote monitor on that specific system and just check the status if you ever had the extra time to go and do so. As well as there's a nice feature here is the set alert level. So if you hit the set alert level button, it's going to give you a dialog box. We have ours set to custom now, but a drop down where you can set all of the alerts and monitoring for a service configuration by just clicking one button. So let's say for some reason you don't really particularly care to monitor your domain controllers for everything, just put it on the low setting. Hit OK, and you'll see it's going to change all of the alert templates to default do nothing, so you're not going to get any alerts. And it's going to change some of the other settings as well. I won't dive into everything, but that would set that whole alert level. And let's say, conversely, you want to know exactly what's going on with every DC in your environment. Set it to high, and that's going to change everything automatically for you again, so you know exactly what's going to happen on all these monitors. So it's going to be the more aggressive monitoring of the domain controllers here. Another thing I want to point out is when you do change any of these monitors, see these little orange dots over here, says things like pending changes. If you make a change to a monitor, it's going to mark it orange, and then you have to save it down here. If you don't hit the save button, it is not going to update. And you'll be locked out from making that actual change. And you can't just exit the screen. It'll make you set a setting, either yes or no. So if you don't want to do any of the changes you made, hit the cancel button, and you'll be all set there. So that's kind of a little overview of the Ignite Manager. With that, I'll hand it back to Paul so he can go over some information about the Patch Manager for you, which I'll get pulled up for him here on the side, which he favorited earlier, so it's really easy to get to. All right, Paul, all yours.
Thanks, Chase. All right, so now with the Patch Manager, it was redesigned with Automate 11. However, you weren't required to upgrade to it. In order to upgrade to Automate 12, though, you are required to use this new Patch Manager, and you actually have to upgrade to it in 11 and get it all configured before you can even install Automate 12. So if you haven't upgraded to it, now is the time to get that rolled out. When you open the Patch Manager, you're initially presented with the dashboard screen, which is what we're looking at now. The dashboard is intended to aggregate all relevant patching information into a single view. And across the top, you'll see a bar that's intended to draw your attention to possibly problematic machines. So we get our overall compliance score. We also get the machines that are currently in daytime patching, if any machines are currently running patching jobs. Machines with no patch inventory, which means they're not reporting in, so it could not be patching. Machines that just need a reboot, machines that have WSUS enabled, and if that's enabled, lab tech won't be able to take over and do the patching. And then you have your out-of-date WA, which of course, if you have an outdated WA, you're going to be missing patches on your machines. And in some cases, it could not be patching at all if it's either corrupted or it's too old. And then machines missing baseline. And then we also just get some deployment pie charts as well as your compliance numbers, which typically we don't necessarily rely on that much. Up here on the top left, you'll see the little devices tab here, and you can click that. And it will list out all of the devices. Now you can look at it globally, or you can look at it per client. And what this will do is it will list all the machines that are either for whatever you selected, and you can highlight one, and down below you'll get a list of all the current patches for that machine, whether it was approved or denied, and if it's installed on the machine. You can view your patch history as well as patch jobs. You can pull in the Windows Update logs as well, but most importantly, we can get the groups here. And we'll go into what these groups exactly are in a minute, but you can see what groups your machine is a part of. And I can actually show you one that should have some groups. But we can see that, for example, this machine is in a workstation patching group. It has a Microsoft update policy, and it has a reboot policy as well as an approval policy. And if it's in multiple groups, you'll need to know which one's being applied. So down here we have our effective policy, and it tells you what update policy is actually being applied in the event that you have more than one, what reboot policy, and then it gives you the total number of your approval policies as they add together. And then you also get just some details about what is exactly is being done here. And we'll look at configuring all these in just a second.
One cool thing too I was going to point out is you can set a local override on these machines. So if you have that one complicated server or that one weird workstation that can't get updated or needs to do it on a weird schedule, you can come to that individual machine and set specific update policies that would go outside of those groups. So you can configure it just for one machine to make it nice and easy.
Yeah, thanks, Chase. So yeah, this allows you to kind of override a machine without having to pull it out of the group or give it its own group. You can either give it its own special policy or even create a policy just to deny all patching if you wanted a machine to not be patched. And that also protects you. If you do a local override, it trumps everything. So if it did ever get in a group, it wouldn't patch. All right, next we have our Configure tab up here on the top right. And the Configure tab is where you apply your Microsoft update policies, your third-party policies, your reboot policies, and then your approval policies to all of your patching groups. So we have a group here. It's got an update policy applied. It doesn't have a third-party update policy, has a reboot, as well as an approval. And to change these, it's as easy enough as just clicking on it, and you can select a different policy. All of your groups are listed here as well. Now these are groups that have just been imported into the Patch Manager. If you have a group you don't need, it's as easy as highlighting it, clicking the Group Actions icon, and choosing Remove Group. Now this doesn't remove it from Automate, it just removes it from the Patch Manager. So if you have multiple groups in here, I know a lot of them get rolled over when you do the upgrade. A lot of these deny groups are from the previous patching system. If you're not utilizing them, it's probably a good idea just to kick them out of here so it's not cluttered. You do have to remove them one by one, but you can remove them. In terms of your groups, if you have multiple patching groups, we have one for servers down here. If a machine is in more than one group, the group lowest in this list, closest to the bottom, is the one that takes priority. So to move your groups around is you just highlight it and then you use these arrows up here, and you can move your groups either up or down so you can ensure that they're in the right order so the policies get pushed out. But typically, as a best practice, you want to make sure that a machine isn't in more than one group. The only time you want to use subgroups is if you have deny groups, because that way you can apply approval policies to deny specific patches. Like you could have a deny.net group, set an approval policy to apply deny .net patches, and then add machines to that group. And that's the only time it really makes sense to have a workstation and a patching group in more than one. Next here is your Microsoft update policies here on the left-hand side in the navigation tree. So clicking this will take us into the window where we can edit all of our policies. Now Microsoft update policies tell Automate when to download and install Microsoft patches on your agents. And we can, of course, we can name our policy. We can choose the Windows Update Agent mode. For Automate to be able to patch the machine, you want to choose either Managed Mode or Managed Mode UI Disabled. The only difference is UI Disabled will lock the end user out of going into the control panel and opening Windows Update and seeing if there are updates available and also running updates manually themselves. Then we just need to schedule our time. So we can choose the day or dates, the occurrence, the days, and then the install time. So now you select a start time and then you select the duration of how many hours, and then you can see when it will end here in parentheses. And then you can also just select individual days of the week as well, or use custom, which we have to get a little more granular. And then with this, you can actually patch multiple days during a week now with this new patch manager. We also have some options available. One is wake system using Wake on LAN or vPro, and that'll try to wake the machine up if it was sleeping before its patch window comes around. We can also create a Windows restore point before patching runs. And then you can also enable daytime patching. So if you check this, what it will do is it will, if a machine is unavailable overnight, in this example would be from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. If it's unavailable, misses that window, the next time it turns on, it will start to patch. And one of the options we get is we can do not patch if uptime is less than X amount of minutes. And what that'll do is just allow the user to get their machine booted up, get their applications open before that patching starts running silently in the background. And we find that if you give them 20 minutes or so, you can usually get daytime patching done silently and they won't even know. Third-party update policies are where you can really configure a similar policy. It's just for when to install third-party updates if you have that licensed from Automate. Reboot policies are tell Automate when it's okay to issue a reboot command to a machine once patching completes. So reboot windows typically extend a bit outside the patch install window, and we have some various reboot actions available as well. So this one right here is during Windows Update, so it will take your Windows Update window. So in the previous example, 3 to 5 a.m., and it will extend it out 30 minutes. I think we can go anywhere from 10 to an hour. So it would go up till 6 a.m. and it would reboot that machine. We have a few reboot options. You can either use now, ask, which it will just ask the user if it's okay. If they don't respond, nothing will happen. Or you can do ask then allow. I believe it counts down from 90 seconds. If they don't respond, it will proceed with the reboot. Or you can do ask, and then if they don't respond, it'll just cancel the reboot and try it during the next window. We also have some options here. You can reboot the system prior to first patch install. You can also set the maintenance window for the instance of the reboot. And you can also ignore scripts and alerts and set a maintenance duration. Now, this isn't really necessary for workstations. It's not a big issue if you don't have that set. However, it's nearly required for servers, or you'll get slammed with alerts when they reboot. And then next we have the approval policies. So your approval policy is where you tell Automate what patches are okay to install on systems. And we now have some automation available to either approve or deny patches based on their type. And then any patches not automatically set, you'll need to do so manually. So you can see here we can do automatic approve, and we can check off patch types that we want to just be approved as they're detected by Automate. They'll immediately be approved and rolled out in the next patch window. And then you also have automatic deny, where you can choose things like drivers, for example, where specific things you'll never want to push, or you'll want to do it on an as-needed manual basis. So it's good to run through here and set this up, and then this will all be done once a day by the server. It'll process all the patches that it's found, and it will save you a lot of time doing your approval. Now, any patches that aren't caught by this, you'll need to come up here and click the approvals icon on the top right. And when there's a red dot here, that means there's some manual approvals that need to be done. So we'll click this and it will open the approval policies, and it does take a minute or two to load at times. Looks like it's running quick today. Up top is all of our discovered patches. So these are patches that are found that weren't either automatically approved or denied, and now they need a technician to come here and highlight the patch and either choose approve, ignore, remove, or deny it. And you can do multiple ones at once by holding down the shift key and just highlighting your patches that you want, and then choosing that action to run on all of them. Once you set a patch, it'll show down below in the set patches half of the window, and these are all the patches that have either been manually or automatically approved or denied. And you can come through here, and if needed, you can actually change the status. If it was previously denied, you can click on it and switch it over to approve if you're now ready to roll out a patch that you previously held. So that really kind of wraps up the patch manager. Really, it's just kind of getting your groups organized, put together, and getting the correct policies applied. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is I'm sure many of you are here because you've yet to upgrade to Automate 12. So there are a few requirements. One, as I mentioned, is the patch manager. Before you install the 12 upgrade, you'll have to be upgraded to that new patch manager. You'll also need an SSL certificate installed on your server. That is required now to use the HTTPS connections. And then you'll also need to ensure that all core plugins must be updated in order for that upgrade to complete and install.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chase and Paul, for that great overview. I'm sure there was a good number of tips and tricks that everyone can pick up and use out of this. With that, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. We should have a couple of questions. If you guys want to submit some more, we can answer a few. One of the ones I got here is, what are the benefits of associating a contact to a machine?
Sure, I can dive into that one. For the contact and machine, I think I mentioned it for a quick second there, but essentially, if you have your clients available to send in tray tickets from their actual agent on their machine, so from this menu where they would send in the create service ticket, if you have the user set up on that machine, that should also sync through to your PSA. So you should be able to see that contact's name and machine ideally when you receive that ticket.
Awesome, and that's only when submitting through a tray ticket.
Yeah, for the tray tickets, yes.
Okay, that should clear it up. There's a quick question. We'll be sending out a copy of the webinar. You'll get an email shortly after here. For those of you asking for that. There's one or two that are a little bit more complex, so we'll be getting back to those probably outside of the webinar. And that should do it for questions that we can answer live here, just to save everyone their Fridays.
Keegan, if I could, there is one more that I think we just want to hammer in for everybody. One pretty cool feature that I think everyone's always been clamoring for in the computer management screens. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one here. Or in the navigation tree, is there is a multi-select feature finally right inside of the system. So now you can either control click multiple machines and submit scripts or commands against just those machines that you've clicked on. You can also do a shift click and highlight all the machines that you would want really quickly and easily. So, if you need to submit, a script to 2 machines, click on the 2, you can right click them go to scripts and fire off whatever script you're doing. Maybe you need to like install some software or something like that. So just one thing I wanted to point out that I think some users have always been asking for, so it's available now. So make sure you use it once you're upgraded.
Right. We just had an easy one come in. Is it hard to upgrade?
No, it's not hard to upgrade as long as you make sure those requirements are met. You just need to run the upgrade file, which you can download from your ConnectWise Automate portal, the customer portal. That upgrade does install more like a patch. There really isn't an upgrade wizard. If you double click it, it'll just start to unpack and run. It'll open a command prompt window and kind of run through the upgrade process. It should be done within 20 to 30 minutes or so. Once it's installed, you'll need to log back into Control Center. When you connect the first time on your Control Center, it will update your Control Center, and then it will quit back out. It'll kind of look like it failed, but you'll just need to open the Control Center again, type in your credentials, log in again, and that time it'll successfully log in, and then you'll be presented with the new Control Center.
All right. Are there any gotchas on the configuration once you're up and running?
Not necessarily. I mean, you just want to make sure you're familiar with the new design, the new layout. Make sure you don't do it in the middle of the week to surprise other techs when they're halfway through a project. And yeah, just make sure you've got the new patch manager going and you get your plugins updated. If you don't update your plugins, you could run into some issues. The old style reporting, like if we right click on a client here and go to reports, they are retiring a lot of these. As you can see, a lot of them are disappearing for us because they're not really accurate. They have retired it, so you'll want to make sure that at the very least under your plugins that you get this new report center installed from the solution center. This is where all reporting is run from now.
Oh, and one quick note, if you're all updated on 12 and have the new report center, they do finally include some form of an executive report. Just as an FYI for everybody, I know everyone's been asking for that for quite some time. So it is available after the upgrade, just so everybody knows.
Yep, if you have the report center installed in 11, because it is available, that one report doesn't show up until you do the upgrade.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up the time we had for questions. We're definitely a couple minutes past where we wanted to be keeping everybody. Just as a quick reminder to existing clients and anyone else that joined, we don't only offer the tune-up and admin services for ConnectWise Automate, but we also assist MSPs in managing backups, doing their 24/7 monitoring, as well as we have a lot of engineers with good experience doing backend projects for not only Windows Server, Azure, VMware, a couple other things. We've got some great experts on team for that. For any more information, please send us an email at sales@provaltech.com, and we can tell you more about how we can work with you. We're offering a one-time discount to any CW Automate project or services for those of you who are attending today. Feel free to check out any of our free resources on our website, YouTube, LinkedIn. We have a great support center at support.provaltech.com. There's a good number of articles. We're publishing new ones almost every day up there. And definitely hit that up, get us some ideas. With that, I'd like to wish you all a happy Friday and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thanks, everyone.